Okay, so we're going to start with what we're going to call the basic cast. Basic cast is the most important cast. Everybody wants to learn how to make this basic cast. Okay, remember that the first thing you have to do to make a basic cast is to load the rod with energy. Now, I have a 6-weight rod here, so it's not going to be as visible to see. Can I borrow one of those lighter rods? How about this one? This rod, if you'll notice that see, it bends a lot more, and it bends a little bit further down the rod. So when you go to throw this line, it's actually going to bend more. So remember, the first thing you have to do is to load the rod. So when your line is out there, loading the rod means using your arm. Now, there are people that have taught fly casting that say it's all about your forearm. They even teach you to put a book in, tuck a book under here and try to keep your arm like so. Or some people will tell you it's all in the wrist. I'm just going to tell you this. Our bodies help us determine that. I watched a guy win a fly distance casting contest, and one of the reasons he was able to do that wasn't just his technique, but he was a big, burly guy. He just had it, and I actually sometimes will use my whole body when I'm casting. So I do use most of my upper body and all of my arm. Okay, that said, so you're going to generate power down through your arm. You have to generate power out to the rod in order to lift the line. First you have to lift it, and then you have to, we'll call it throw it, shoot it, whatever you want to call it. So we're going to do this in 2 casts. And I'm going to help you get a little bit more line out. So you're going to pinch your line like this. So the best way to cast a fly rod is with your thumb out on the handle like so. If you just grip it like this, it's a lot harder to get control of the rod than if you put your thumb on the cork like so. So, like this. Okay, now when I say generate power, just for this second, all I want you to do is watch the tip of this rod bend. Don't watch anything else. Just see if you can see it bend. Did you see that bend right there? Watch it bend again. It bent. Bent. Okay. That's loading it. Now in slow motion, it's like this. You start by pulling, and then you draw it back, and right about there it should be loaded, and then it's going to fire. And then remember, the second part is come to a dead stop, an abrupt stop. So now again, load, stop. See how I just stopped? Okay, so it's load, stop. Okay, so load, stop. We talked about this in the mechanics. Now, I'm going to add something in here because this is important. It really, I've learned over the years and working with other instructors that this helps you make a better cast and a better stop. So I'm going to call it flick to a stop. So as you draw, like so, then you start to raise the rod. So first you're drawing it towards you just like so. Then you're going to raise it up. But right about there, flick your wrist to a stop. Go like that. So it's going to look something like this. Flick. Draw it, stop, flick. draw, stop, flick. Draw, stop, flick. Now, what's going to happen is when you do that, because remember, rod tip stays straight, like so, keeps your tighter loops. Now this is where the other aspects of casting a basic cast, as you progress, you will have to learn timing and feel. So if I'm casting, I can feel the rod load, and I know when it's laid out. So now let me do this with my arm, because this is where people make their first big mistake. So my arm is now the line. Here, so I pick the line up and I'm starting to throw it. It's loaded, and now I get to here and I flick my wrist. But now watch the rest of the line lay out. The line has to keep laying out as tight as can be until it gets to there. That second that it lays out is when you would draw it back. This is what's frustrating to people, because here's what happens to most people. They draw it back, but they don't see it, or they don't feel it. They don't have the timing. So what happens is the line gets about right here and they throw it forward. And when you do that, if this bottom part of my arm is the line, now it's going like this and the line just falls to the ground. And if that happens, they get frustrated, and then they want to power through it. So the technical term is tailing loop. You have a tailing loop when you do that. Well, what happens is, if you've done this enough, you've had wind knots. If you get a wind knot, that means that your line didn't lay out and you tried to power through, or you made too short of a cast. And what happens if the line doesn't lay out? Whether you do it this way or that way, if you do it too late or too soon, the line's going to fall. Thank you, Ray.